Welcome, everyone. I am Enrique Acosta Gonzales, and I am joined by Ashkan Tashvir. And in this episode, we will be speaking about decisive and assertive leadership, mastering tough calls with confidence. And Ashkan, I can't wait to get into conversation because I've seen many times where a leader has to make a decision and they could be stuck in it.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Hello, Enrique. Yeah, the topic today is actually a topic that is very close to my heart, and I deeply find it quite important. Um, so let's create a context as usual. Yeah. So what does it land to you, Enrique, when we talk about decisiveness or being decisive?
Well, being decisive is the ability to take whatever you have in front of you as a leader, make a decision, hopefully with the things that you need to make a decision. But sometimes we're under the gun and we have to make a decision immediately. And you have to rely on your past experience, your current situation, and maybe knowledge of the future, especially if you're talking about a company of where they want
Yes.
to go, to be able to decisively or on the spot make a decision that will benefit everyone as a whole.
Yes. 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 Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so there are various different theories around decision making processes, and um, in theory, some are quite enticing. Yeah, but when it comes to action, when you're in the field, um, things can be very, very different. Yeah, and let's say, for example, like it's often we often talk about data driven decision making. That's a term that it's being used a lot. So there are some inauthenticities around that, inaccuracies. For example, it is not the actual data that we use in making decisions. Yeah, it's the information at best. Basically, you gather data, you structure it in such a way that it make sense or make a particular meaning. You make it mean something, and then you make decision. But I would go further than that, and we talked about it in some of the previous episodes. It's even further than that. We don't make decisions based on data or based on information. We actually make decisions based on intelligence. Now, why that is different? Because um, you have some part of the information you extracted from the data that is quite validated. Yeah, so you have a validated portion of information you extracted from the data you've gathered. But then there's this part that you cannot validate it. Either like it can be like the nature of that portion of information. You gathered some intelligence, and you can verify it due to the nature of that, or you simply don't have the time or resources to actually verify that 100%. So when we say intelligence, intelligence is this term that refers to the aggregation of the validated information you extracted from the data you've gathered and the part that for whatever reason you cannot verify. And then you're going to make a decision. Now, so if that's the case, if you're considering what I just said, then decisiveness, this quality that you are capable of making decisions real time, sometimes on the spot or with some level of preparation, then it becomes extremely important, especially in the context of the businesses today, the life today in general, that everything is quite fast paced. You don't really have much time sometimes to make these perfect decisions that you want to make. So, what do you have to say about that? Like, have you experienced that yourself, Enrique, or in the environment that you've worked? That, particularly, you're coming from the Navy background, and there are times that literally you don't have time, and then decisions needs to be made quite swiftly.
Yeah, definitely have plenty of examples, especially out in the field or
But imagine,
deployment. when you have to make decisions based on what you have at the moment, but more importantly, with all the experience that you have, sometimes that is enough to decide on the moment what you need to do. But there definitely have been life or death situations where I have seen things play out and you had to make a decision and it is instant. There's no time to go looking for validated data. You just have to go with what is best and at the moment what you have had as an experience to lead you into a good decision. But yeah, plenty of examples in that regard.
Yes, yes. Yeah, sometimes, when we talk about this, it reminds me of the time that I was practicing martial art. I mean, I would go to the ring, and um, if you wanted to really plan your moves, that okay, so I'm going to go in and do this and do that, and um, often that would have gone wrong because one move from your opponent, which was not like in your imagination when you were planning, it's going to shatter the whole thing. But what was working perhaps was those preparations, the preparation that you've gone through, so that then you have this ability to let your body and mind make the decisions uh, uh, like right at the right time. Yeah. So, okay. So that's basically the context around decisiveness or the need for decisiveness. Now, we have two of the aspects of being in the being framework. One is confidence and one is assertiveness. And our empirical data, Enrique, as we discussed previously, me and you, our empirical data of thousands of um, people that have completed their profile indicates that the average score of the health of the relationship of people with assertiveness and confidence are actually quite low in comparison with some other qualities, like for example, care or responsibility. Let's say, yeah. So and that made it quite interesting to me, and why that is, and I was quite obsessed with that for some time. Actually, see why is it that like we don't manifest assertiveness or confidence much? It's quite rare. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, so confidence, we're not talking about self-confidence only. We're talking about or self-esteem. We're not talking about that. We're talking about confidence in the sense that you're going to be dealing with doubts, dilemmas, hesitations all the time. Yeah, as human beings, we deal with all of these that I just mentioned on a daily basis, many, many times. Um, and and obviously, you cannot know everything about everything, so that it makes you be fully confident. Yet, life sometimes even harshly demands us to know stuff and to be confident with the decisions that we're making. Now, obviously, there are technical things where we can do. We can consult with the right people. We can work with advisors. We can have like um, mm, a kind of a support system around us so that it makes us more confident. But what we're talking here is more how you relate to confidence, how you relate to the times that you're anxious around uncertainties and doubts that as they come up. Now, how does this confidence conversation relate to decisiveness? Is often when we are making decisions, we're dealing with these dilemmas. Should we fire this person or not? Should we hire this person or not? Should we give more responsibility to this person or not? And many many more. Yeah, all the way to unstructured problems like, for example, should we open this new branch of our business in this particular location or not? Things like that. Um, you're going to be dealing with lots of hesitations, and that's exactly where your relationship with confidence is going to show up, and it's going to make a huge difference. Yeah, so you're going to make the decision in the context of anxieties, what if this, what if that, hesitations and doubts. Do you have some tangible examples that you've seen or you've experienced yourself, Enrique, where you wanted to make decisions, but then all these like hesitations and everything are coming up, and your relationship with confidence either is leading you go forward or back off.
Yeah, definitely. I was just remembering just driving, right? Just a
Yeah,
simple task is driving. I was making a U turn, all legal, everything was right, but
yeah,
you're going into a 3-lane highway and now
yeah,
there's staggering cars.
mm,
The level of confidence that I had to make that turn was not question about my ability, but how would that car take
yeah,
that turn and be able to get into the lane appropriately in
yeah,
time, safely, and allow me to proceed where I was going. And there was a
yeah,
lot of hesitation because number one, you're talking about my safety, and so now
yeah,
that's up here at the at the list of things that are important. But then, how confident was I in the ability of this car to make that type of turn? So,
yeah,
eh, just like that, we can
mm,
translate that to a workspace. How
mm,
confident are you to stand in a meeting and be able to plead your case in favor or not for a situation or a decision that you would have to
yeah,
make? A lot of your past will come up and say, "Hey, remember last time the
yeah,
last time somebody did that?" Or, "Hey, do you really have all the data? Should you be asking or should you be bringing this up in this situation?" There's
yeah,
so many competing things that come at us to kind of test our confidence. But as leaders, you have to truly rely on all the wealth of knowledge you have, all the wealth of experience you have to allow you to have a good relationship with confidence, or healthy as we refer it to, in order for you
yeah.
to execute that role of leader that you're in.
Yes, yes, and that was a great example actually, like when you're talking about the cars first, because um, I think everyone can relate to that, because see, yeah, you're going to make the U-turn and you're receiving or perceiving all of these different variables, yeah. So the cars that are moving, like, and et cetera, et cetera. And at some point, you need to make the decision quickly and go. You can't just keep hesitating and then keep putting your um, uh, food on the brake, because that's actually going to cause problem most of the time. Yeah. So to identify where exactly is the time to go ahead and be confident in that decision you make, that's exactly what we're talking about. Now, and as you said, like in organizations, I mean, I experience it with, I mean, often work with consult the corporate sector. Um, for example, they want to build this software, and and they work with the software developers or the project lead or something like that. And these guys have come up with like four different solutions for tackling certain problem. Yeah. And then this person goes to their manager, and the manager will go, oh, okay, explain it to me. And then they go, okay, so we have these four different options. Go, hmm, I'm not sure about this one, but they go like, not this one, but I'm not sure about the rest, the three, the rest of them. And so they don't want to make the decision. Yeah. So they delay that, and then they go, and then it goes to their manager, and then manager would go, okay, so not this one, but I'm not sure, which of the two we should choose. Like, you see this kind of pattern that people don't want to make decisions because at the end of the day, if it goes wrong, then it's going to be on them. All the way it goes to the head of the department, let's say, or the CEO, and then at the end they go, okay, who was like coming up with these solutions? And then the technician is going to come up there, and they're going to put it on the decision making on the shoulders of the actual technician who wanted to do it. So, and this links to accountability and other aspects of being as we normally talk about, but let's stay there. So we talked about decisiveness, making good decisions quickly on the spot with whatever resources we have available to us, um, tapping into the intelligence that we have, not just the raw data. And then we talked about confidence, because the moments of decision making, we're going to be dealing with lots of hesitation, dilemmas, and doubts. And that's exactly where our relationship with confidence matters. Whether we have a stable or healthy relationship with confidence or not. Like when it comes to hesitations, then we're going to pull back, we're going to be anxious, etc., etc. Now, how does this relate to assertiveness, Enrique? You think?
Well, your level of confidence or your health with confidence or not will
Mm,
kind of guide you as to how far are you willing to go with
mm,
putting something out, especially if it has to do with you. Now, a lot of people confuse assertiveness with some type of bold meanness, right? Coming
yeah,
out and just kind of plowing through people. But that's not what assertiveness is. And we'll cover
mm,
some of that here shortly. But
yeah,
the level of confidence you have allows you to step into your assertiveness, your realm where you can actually assert a position or a thing and feel like you are in control of what you are to deliver. And so it's paired together, but one feeds the other.
yeah, yeah. I actually would like to read the only the first part of the distinction confidence and the first part of the distinction assertiveness. Now, this is not to say that we're redefining confidence, assertiveness, or we're saying that like these definitions are right ones and any other definitions are wrong. These are actually, we refer to them as distinctions. Many of the audience, they have watched previous episode, they know what we're talking about from a being framework perspective. So these are distinctions. We're not making anyone wrong, we're just saying that this is what we're talking about. Yeah. So confidence is how you relate to certainties, uncertainties, doubts, and hesitation. It is the belief or understanding that you can rely on or have faith in someone or something, including your own abilities and qualities. Being confident supports you in gaining credibility and making good first impression while dealing with pressure and meeting life head on. So that's basically what we mean when we're talking about confidence. Now, when it comes to assertiveness, because there's lots of misconceptions of that, as you mentioned, Enrique, assertiveness is when you express yourself effectively and stand up for your point of view, or in this case, like the decision that we have made and we committed to that decision as a leader, while also being respectful of others. It is the willingness to express your thoughts and feelings and communicate your needs and expectations firmly and directly while being considerate of others and aware of any subsequent consequences of being assertive, because that's a very extremely important part that we'll talk about it now. Assertiveness is being resolute, straight, firm, and basically it leads to our effectiveness. So, um, when we talk about being assertive, um, I mean, like, okay, let's go again. Like, we know that we need to make a decision. We've committed to this decision with confidence. Now, that doesn't mean that we're 100% sure. It's not a matter of 100% sure. It's a matter of you did your homework, you did your best to predict the consequences of that decision, and you need to be with it, and you need to um, stand by it. There's no other way. You can't just keep hesitating and and go ahead. And you may be wrong. I mean, and that is okay because we can make mistakes. And at the end of the day, someone needs to make that decision. Yeah. So now, then you committed to that decision. Now you need to execute on it. You need to convey the point. You need to assert. Yeah. That's basically where it links to the assertiveness. So, any example that it comes to your mind, Enrique, that we can bring it home for our audience?
Yeah, I was just thinking about a time where I witnessed this going on. Now, there was a CEO that was very open to the 80% solution. Now, he was
Mm,
very clear on what he meant, right? You want to produce the best you can, right? So don't settle for 80. But when it
mm,
came to decisions, he wanted people to understand that we would have the leeway of
mm.
20% error because you cannot rely on
Yeah,
100% data or 100% accuracy or 100% confidence in order to make a decision. So he ran on an 80% solution. And what that did was it gave the team the ability to feel confident enough to make decisions and go with it, right?
mm,
Innovate by iterating, right? These things that will
mm.
come. Let's just get this through and not be held bound by a lack of confidence, for better words, and not make the decision. And so what I
Yeah,
saw was that the team flowed better in their decision making because they had the basically the pass from the CEO to be able to work in that 80% solution. And sometimes that is good enough, right? For some work,
yeah,
right? Some other work, technical work, right? The spacecraft, you don't want 80%. You want a little higher than that,
yes,
right?
yes, yes.
But there are some, in most cases, in corporations that 80% is a good solution for what they're doing, and but it allowed that team to flow a whole lot easier and smoother.
Yes, yes, yeah. And that actually comes from a kind of ontological understanding of the content of the word, all there is. I mean, we can't have access to the all truth, but um, coming from this authentic awareness, like trying to develop congruent conceptions of various different fragments of reality, how things are, is extremely important, particularly as leaders. See, we should know that we cannot engineer everything all the time. You know, when you were talking about the aircraft, like aircraft is a completely different game. We're talking about something that, and still like things go wrong, unfortunately, but we had managed to develop a high degree of accuracy because we're dealing with exact sciences. So now we can fail in execution, but at the end of the day, it's something quite structured. It's a structured problem. Like we're dealing with exact sciences, we're dealing with physics formulas, etc., etc. But when it comes to dealing with human beings as complex entities, that's why, for example, psychology in its totality is not an exact science. It's not like you go always, if you have this input, then this output is going to be consistently created. Um, uh, I mean, like in social sciences, we take completely different approaches. We cannot take this very positivist approach that, okay, so let's come up with this very, very accurate system that always, for this input, that output is going to be created. We're dealing with human beings, we're dealing with subjectivity of human beings, we're dealing with intersubjectivities around amongst us, and it's a completely different game. Now, as part of that authentic awareness, we should know that we cannot engineer everything with human beings. Yeah. So you're developing a team, you're building relationships, you're building bonds. It's extremely different to putting the pieces of a car in manufacturing a car together or an aircraft. Um, I'm not saying that which one is more important or less important. I'm saying it's different. So and leadership management, all of that sits in this category that you're dealing with human beings and human needs and human, I mean, whatever changes in human mind and human emotions and all that. Considering that when we're making these decisions involve the human beings, let's say project management, yeah. So often more amateur project managers, they have this perception that they are a good project manager if they can manage to estimate everything, create their work breakdown structure, like the backlog of items that they need to go through. They allocate resources perfectly. They estimate the timeline and the budget, and they avoid any kind of a scope creeps. Basically, like the scope of the project expands. Well, while that's ideal, never almost that happens. So therefore, the role of a project manager is not just that, but also um, constantly in being aware of what is going on, yeah, including the things that are not, they haven't been considered in the initial plans. Um, like some people in your team are going to get sick, they're going to have severe health problems. Some of the requirements haven't been gathered properly, and then as you progress in the project, then you're going to see, oh, we haven't thought about this, we haven't thought about that. So basically, then as a project manager, your role becomes being so aware of these, pulling these things out by having constant effective communications with every different stakeholder and people involved in that project, so that then you can let everyone know, yeah, what is about to come. Like if, for example, it's going to go over budget, if the timeline is going to be moved, and then when you provide that, then collectively we can make more effective decisions. Yeah, for example, if we cannot move the timeline for various different reasons, then we need to increase the resources, people in the team, etc., cutting the scope to a degree so that we can meet the timeline. Or if we can push the timeline, then so the idea is knowing that you're not in full control of everything when you're making decisions, as if like we are this sailing boat on a current of a sometimes even a stormy ocean, and you're not the generator of the wind. Like if you come from this arrogance that you are the generator of the wind, then you can actually influence everything. You can control everything. That's a better word here. Then your your conception of how reality works perhaps is not as accurate as it could be. And then, therefore, your decisions are not going to be as effective as it could be. So, the idea is to acknowledge the nature of the environment that we operate in, especially when we're dealing with team building, running organizations, managing or leading teams, working on projects. So having that base understanding, and then knowing that sometimes we don't even have data, let alone like we talked about it, like it's not the data that we make decisions based on, but the intelligence. And as we said, like we cannot verify the whole information that we are extracting. So we understand and acknowledge that, and then also on top of that, then we know that there's going to be hesitations, there's going to be dilemmas, there's going to be doubts. And on top of that, then we know that human beings have this subjective side, intersubjective side, and things cannot be managed or engineered as if like you're dealing with the pieces of metals and wood and other materials in engineering um, um, things, not human beings. And saying all that at the end, we talked about assertiveness. That now the decision is made on top of all of these layers, and then you're committed to that. And then knowing the potential consequences, still you want to commit to that decision, and you want to be assertive in conveying that, and standing by your call at the end of the day, even if it turned out not to be the best decision, because that decision needed to be made at some point through this journey by someone. So any final thing you would like to add, Enrique, before we wrap this episode up?
Yeah, decision making is one of the things that we have to do on a daily basis, especially as leaders, and we have groups or we have tasks at work. Really take the time to appreciate all that you have come through as a leader and allow yourself some credit that you have the experience, that you have the knowledge. that you have the intelligence, that you have the resources, the capabilities to make sound decisions in the best interest of yourself, your team, and your company. Give yourself
Mm.
that credit. Don't let that hesitation grip you, right? When you talk about fear and anxiety, don't let that come up and grip you from or steal from you opportunity to decide, because you have earned the position as a leader and you're there for that reason. So decide and decide well.
Yeah, thank you, Enrique. And my last piece would be just to reiterate this thing that we had it throughout the series of videos we've created. Um, we human beings all have intentions that we care about a lot. That's a common human experience. Phenomenologically, we know that we have intentions we care about. Now, there's another common human experience, which is when we care about some intention, we want them to be fulfilled. We want them to be fulfilled. And in order for us to fulfill these decisions, these intentions that we have, we need to be integrous. Basically, all the bits and pieces of our whole psyche needs to fit in the right place. And that's what we mean by a stable relationship or healthy relationship with these various different aspects of being. We're relating to commitment in a certain way that it contributes to our overall integrity, relating to responsibility or autonomy, relating to confidence, as we discussed today, relating to assertiveness, and so on. And relating to these more subtle, deep qualities, which at the end of the day, that are going to drive our decisions and behaviors, are is extremely important. And that's exactly what we discuss in the being framework and the content that I've created around that. Hopefully, these conversations going to that we're having in this series is going to encourage you to actually look into the being framework and leverage it and benefit from it, like many other leaders, individuals, and organizations that are already using it. So, if there's nothing else, Enrique, we can wrap this session up. Thank you very much, Enrique, and thank you everyone for being with us.